Welcome to Sacred Cow Shipyards, where no ship is safe from being taken down to its nuts and bolts.
Well then, like I said last week, I am taking the easy way out of these few episodes because I've got some stuff going on in my own world, and frankly, y'all are not a significant priority for me. Now, last week we talked about different kinds of fires, and if you haven't watched and or listened to that video yet, you probably should, because it might actually save your life one day if I'm being totally egotistical and self-centered for a second, and I totally would never do that. Anyways, this week, on a more ship-related tangent, we are going to be talking about something called the material conditions of readiness. What are the material conditions of readiness? Well, if you have ever had the opportunity to go on a Navy ship from your United States specifically, you will see that almost all of the doors and hatches on the ship will have letter stickers attached to them. Those stickers basically define those doors and hatches roles in certain conditions of readiness, and as a slight tangent to the tangent, you will only ever find doors in bulkheads, and you will only ever find hatches in the floor and or ceiling. There are no vertical hatches. All hatches are horizontal or horizontal-ish. And there are no horizontal doors. All doors are vertical. Just, basic Navy terminology. And yes, I'm being quite serious. In fact, the picture that's showing up for you right now should be that of a quick-acting watertight door. And it's quick-acting because that one lever or wheel or whatever's in the middle of it operates all the dogs around the edge of the hatch that hold it closed. And the dogs are the little metal latches that swing down from allowing the door to open, and they latch the door closed around the entire circumference of the door. Now, this is quick acting because, again, you can just use that one lever as opposed to having to operate all those dogs individually. And sometimes you can have like 8-10 dogs on specific types of doors. It's a lot faster just to use the one lever. Naturally, these doors are a lot more expensive, so you typically only see them in high traffic areas. Anyways, conditions of readiness. The basic premise for your United States Navy is that there are 3 levels of conditions of readiness, and at the lowest level, only X-ray doors have to be closed all the time unless someone is actively going through them, and then even after the person has gone through them, you should close them behind you. And then at yoke level, you have to have X-ray and yoke doors closed all the time, and hatches for that matter. And then at zebra level, you have to have X-ray, yoke, and zebra closed at all times unless someone is actually going through them right then at that moment, and again, they should be dogged behind them. Now, the smartasses in the audience should be going, wait a second, the NATO phonetic alphabet word for Y is not yoke. You're right, it's Yankee. I honestly have no idea why it's called yoke. It's just called yoke. Deal with it. Now, speaking more generally, X-ray basically only happens when you're in port or at really, really rare opportunities when the ocean is perfectly calm and there's nothing going on. X-ray is, of course, the lowest level of readiness, where there's lots of stuff just, hanging out open and no one cares because you're tied up in port and nothing's going to happen. And yeah, still, X-rays does still allow for some degree of compartmentalization, specifically for engineering spaces, because engineering spaces need a lot of compartmentalization. It's the easiest way of controlling flooding or fires or other things that happen, in engineering spaces. Alternatively, yoke is basically what happens when a ship is underway. This is kind of like, well, obviously, the middling level of readiness, where the ship is not like being significantly inconvenienced by having yoke set, but if something were to happen to the ship significantly, then yeah, yoke will help keep it alive. Or make it easier to get to, yes, you guessed it, zebra, which is basically a full-on fucking goddamn lockdown. And well, I'm given to understand that y'all are intimately familiar with lockdowns at this point, so you're probably picking up what I'm putting down, unfortunately. Zebra basically happens when you're pretty sure something might go wrong to the ship, or if something does go wrong, it'll be fucking catastrophic. On the latter end of the spectrum, you have things like unreps, underway replenishments. It's basically when a giant floating gas station pulls up alongside your ship, sends over a, gas line, and you refuel your ship from it. The chances of things going wrong at this point in that process's life are pretty low because all navies have been doing that for basically ever. But if something were to go wrong, it would go really, really, really wrong. So you would want to contain that wrongness as much as you can. So yes, you can set condition zebra. On the other end of the spectrum, if you knew for certain that the ship was about to be taking damage, like, say, someone all of a sudden said, "Vampire, vampire, 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 bearing 120, range 20 nautical miles, brace for impact, set condition zebra throughout the ship," yeah, you're about to get shot by a missile. It's gonna suck. So yes, conditions of readiness are exactly that. How ready is the ship to receive damage, whether it's intentional damage, accidental damage, or just damage that, happens? Now, what's funny is there are some weird edge case oddities running around this whole process. For example, there's a condition of readiness called dog zebra. Yes, dog, not delta. Again, we are totally f***ing the goddamn NATO alphabet. Ignore it. And dog zebra is basically what all surface ships set when the sun goes down. It's all the doors you need to keep shut in order to minimize the ship's, light presence. Because, warships, like basically every other seagoing ship, have to maintain a certain number of what are called running lights. They are colored or white lights that indicate the direction the ship is moving and how big the ship is, and a couple other significant details. But beyond that, the ship should be emitting the least amount of light possible for a whole variety of reasons. And dog zebra doors are doors that are kept shut to minimize, light emission. And then there are things like, say, circle zebra. It is actually a Z with a circle around it, as opposed to a Z with a D around it, like dog zebra. The point of circle zebra is that, ships can't actually stay at condition zebra for more than about 4 hours. It gets kind of awkward at that point, because people need to be able to move around carrying things in their hand, which gets in the way of opening and closing the hatches and doors immediately behind them. So, circle zebras are typically smaller hatches or smaller doors built into hatches or doors that are otherwise zebra that are allowed to remain open at the commanding officer's discretion to allow easier transit from point A to point B. But the catch is, someone actually has to be physically present at every single circle zebra open in order to secure it immediately if something goes wrong. Because, after all, these are conditions of readiness. Or maybe more specifically, these are conditions of survivability. Because, if something were to go wrong on a ship set at X-ray condition, ship's fucked. I mean, the engineering spaces are contained, blah, 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 so on and so forth. If it gets out of the engineering spaces, y'all done. It's that easy. And at yoke condition, it's getting a little harder to move around the ship, but by the same token, if anything were to go wrong on the ship, you got a pretty good chance that it's compartmentalized in a reasonable fashion. Once we hit zebra, you're basically not moving from where you are. But by the same token, no fire's moving from where it is either, and no flooding is moving from where it is either, and that's kind of the whole goddamn point. So, and I apologize for inducing PTSD in all of you U.S. Navy sailors out there, but there's a reason why this kind of thing kind of sticks in your brain. General quarters, all hands man your battle stations, up and forward on the starboard side, down and aft from port side, set condition zebra throughout the ship. Yeah, kind of get your ass moving, doesn't it? But the point is, every department on the ship, every division on the ship, every group of people on the ship that is managed by a, group basis, have a group of doors, group, that they are responsible for setting the condition for. So when this call goes across the 1MC, that is to say the loudspeaker for the ship, these people then immediately go and set condition zebra on these doors, and then go to their battle stations, which is the whole point of the process. Set condition X-ray, yoke, zebra is all shorthand for close this set of doors. And hatches, I suppose. And it's your ass if you don't. Possibly literally. And oh yes, the setting of these conditions is very much timed during drills, and people get in a lot of trouble if they don't meet their intended time period. This is a big deal. So what does this mean for all your science fiction vehicles and vessels out there? Well, if you're in space, you're probably already running on some sort of modified condition dog zebra of some sort. Because while surface ships and terrestrial navies can steam around with some of their exterior hatches open, spaceships can't do that so much. So they're probably already at some kind of dog zebra to begin with. But are they always going to be at zebra? How is this going to affect your storyline? How is this going to affect your characters? I mean, Star Trek, through all of its magical technology, bypasses all of this with containment fields and blah, 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 so on and so forth. And yes, they're all perfectly working. They always engage at just the right time so the main characters can escape and the fire can't. Whatever. But if you're trying to be at all reasonable or realistic or anything like that, is your ship going to have all the hatches open that it does in port while it's underway? Fine. I mean, that is an option. You can do that. But you have to understand that fires will spread. Decompression events will spread. You have to take that into account. And if you want to keep the ship locked down all times, every time, all places, everywhere, well, then your characters are going to get kind of annoyed trying to get through this pain of an ass of a ship. And now you've got plot points of, did characters remember to close all the right hatches and doors, or was there a problem closing one of them and what happened because of that? So, yeah, the mechanics and science of keeping ships from burning to the waterline or sinking to the bottom of your oceans is pretty fundamentally boring, but it does offer opportunities for you to think a little outside the box and consider how things might happen if you were at all being realistic about the stories you're writing. And, well, given the state of Hollywood and most authors these days, there's not much concern about that, is there?
And that's all from Sacred Cow Shipyards. Please be advised that any ship left on the dock for more than 24 hours will be compressed to a cube at the owner's expense. Have a nice day.